Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption, thank you.
Based on the permitting history and the zoning code definition, the subject building has always been an apartment house. There are no building permits or certificates of occupancy available or provided to validate the claim. The subject building operated with short-term rentals or as a transient occupancy. So I'm going to go through slide by slide, point by point, the appellant's points. So his first point is that the Ellison is a qualified historic building pursuant to the California Historic Building Code, and therefore its historical use is preserved. I want to just go back and make sure that the one point I made didn't get lost. It wasn't until 1992, when the TORS ordinance came through, that we had a limitation on how long you had to stay. Prior to that, you could rent it shorter term, but after that, it was 30 days or longer to be an apartment house. Otherwise, you were a hotel transient. Okay? Okay. So, with that said, he's saying he had that right prior to this time, and so by going to the CHBC, he had the rights to go back to, and he had some sort of historic use preserved. The CHBC does not determine allowable land uses in the zone. It does not. The CHBC references in its actual language the term use, and it refers to occupancy and life safety issues, not the underlying zoning provisions. What really does govern is the city's zoning code, and it prescribes the allowable uses in each zone. So that's my response to him. His points number 2 and number 7 are very similar. I've put them both on their own slides for clarity. The government code preserves the Ellison's short and long-term rental use by preserving Venice's land use laws, because before the consolidation, it already had laws. And then he gets into the issue of consolidation, not annexation. Consolidation did not repeal any of the ordinances under which vested rights may have accrued. No evidence in the record that the appellant has a vested right whatsoever. There was some print advertisement that was submitted from 1928. It was an advertisement to rent the Ellison apartments for nightly, weekly, or monthly rates, but that's all we have. There's no evidence whatsoever other than those print ads that were in the Christian Science Monitor between November and December of 1928. And we do not accept that. There's no ledgers, there's no receipts, there's nothing other than those print ads that even discuss the fact that it was offered. The City of Venice ordinance provided by the appellant, and the City of Los Angeles zoning code prior to '92 was in fact silent on the length of stay. The City of Los Angeles, though, has the right to adopt future zoning ordinances. So the argument is that prior to that point, in '92, there were no limits on how long, and it wasn't that there was a limit of any kind, length of stay addressed in Venice, the city prior to consolidation. His argument is that those were preserved, but it was silent. It didn't offer them, it didn't prohibit them. So during the consolidation, the fact that though certain ordinances from the prior cities were repealed just by the consolidation, the zoning ordinances were not. But the city preserves the right to, in fact, adopt future zoning ordinances. My final bullet on that. The Ellison's vested right to rent apartment units on short and long-term basis was grandfathered in. Nowhere in the record has the appellant demonstrated that they were granted legal non-conforming use status as a hotel. A completely separate part of the code says if you have any, and we're not capitulating that they had any, but if you have non-conforming rights, if you discontinue the use of those non-conforming rights for over a year, you will lose them. So it's pretty wordy, but there's the slide. I think you guys can digest that. But basically, if you've discontinued use for a year, you've lost the non-conforming right, if it had existed. The appellant's arguments regarding vested rights, which are made in the record, are to health and safety and the building code. But as I started my opening comments, the scope that we're here for, the limited scope, is for, in 1226K, is did building safety error abuse its authority in interpreting the zoning code. Making reference to the health and safety code and the building code are not before us. Additionally, to try to address some of the non-conforming potential, I did additional research to find out if anyone had done any investigation or inspections of the property to see if it ever had any evidence whatsoever that it was anything other than an apartment house. HCID, the Housing and Community Investment Department, has a systematic code enforcement program. It's known as the, I guess, SCUP, I'm not sure how everyone refers to it. Excuse me? SCAP, there we go, for the record, SCAP. So, after doing that research, I threw some bullets together for everyone to digest. Periodic inspections have occurred at the Ellison since 2001. The Ellison has consistently paid fees for this inspection, which the fee only applies to rental dwelling units. If it was short-term rentals or a hotel, those fees would not have been applied to it. Each inspection had no reference whatsoever to short-term rentals. Then, in January of 2015, HCID was alerted that the Ellison had started to rent on a short-term basis. Community members, some complaint came in, what have you. In February of 2015, HCID issued orders to comply, and those orders actually are not resolved to date. They're partially related to today's action, I believe. The appellant's point number 4 and 8 are really identical, so I merged them into one. Prohibiting short-term rentals in Venice's coastal zone violates the California Coastal Act.